United States, 66% of all businesses are family held. I find that the family businesses that I work with anyway are the bravest people I know. They are willing to say those hard things. I doubled down on that when I started running a family business center. There's a model, the 3-circle model of the family business system. It's a Venn diagram. It's 3 circles. There's the family circle, there's the business circle, and then the revolutionary thing that Harvard did is put this third one on there, which is ownership. In the family circle, you're probably wanting harmony. You just want to get along. You want to have fun together. Inside of the business, if you try to have harmony, you're going to ruin the business. Inside of the business, you need to say to your co-founder or your brother or your spouse, you're not doing a good job. You must be employees or colleagues together in that circle. And then in ownership, it might be very different. Maybe one is the majority shareholder and one is minority. Well, one probably gets to make all the decisions, the other one doesn't, even though in the business, you're trying to solve problems together and make decisions together.
Welcome back, folks, to another episode of the Entrepreneur Circle. I'm your most happy and humbled host. As usual, I am joined by someone who knows family business inside and out. Sara B. Stern. She's a certified EOS implementer, a seasoned coach, an expert in all things helping families, especially family-owned businesses, navigate growth, leadership, transitions, and to be honest, those inevitable family conflicts. So Sara's got a wealth of experience and knowledge, and I can't wait to dive in to gain her insights. So welcome to the show, Sara.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome to be here.
Yeah, I am blessed to have a mutual friend in Adam Hill. So big shout out to him for making this introduction. I am excited to get into it with you. So the very first question that I love to ask, there's going to be a few that I like to ensure that we touch on. But the first is the eureka moment in your life and business that caused a major change or pivot.
I'm going to pick one early in life. I got a job teaching swimming lessons to 3-year-olds, and that changed the course of my entire life. In order to learn how to swim, you have to learn skill 1 before you can learn skill 2. So you have to be able to put your face in the water before you can swim on your face, that kind of thing. And that drew the course of my life forever. I've always been looking for, how do I still basically teach swimming lessons, just make a little more money, have a little more freedom, and not wear a swimsuit at work. Continue. So how did it start to shape and form and change your life, that decision? I thought maybe just being a teacher was the answer. That was not the answer. I thought, oh my gosh, maybe I'll be a psychologist. No, that's not really the answer. And it wasn't until after I had gotten an entire undergraduate degree and a master's degree, and that master's degree was in organizational psychology, essentially, that I found this thing called coaching and became a coach. And that's when I realized, okay, that's teaching swim lessons. I doubled down on that when I started running a family business center, because I realized there too that actually family businesses are the majority of businesses in the world. And I know you're focused, right, in your work on entrepreneurs. All family businesses start with an entrepreneur, right? Every single one of them.
Yeah.
And it's the few wild and crazy entrepreneurs who either accidentally or on purpose bring their kids into the business, or their niece or their nephew, or even, I would guess, a lot of people in your audience bring in a spouse or a sibling, and the dynamics that happen when family is working together in the business was all these other, swimming lessons jobs, if you will, all came together when I got to work with family businesses.
Yeah, I'm so curious. That seems like a good plan at the time if you're trying to save or cut costs, right? So it's like, hey, I don't necessarily have to pay you a salary, or I'll pay you something that no one will ever accept as a salary, right, because you are my wife, my husband, my child, cousin. So would you say that, given your position, or like just all your knowledge as far as like someone coming in and saying, hey, I'm starting a business, Sara, what are some of the pitfalls that I should be aware of? Would one of them be like, hey, don't hire family? or are there certain parameters you say, hey, if you're going to do this, specific rules around that?
Yeah, I would not say don't hire family. Just like you said, I would say have some really important conversations first, and use some very specific guidelines, and they're super simple. There's a model. Its long name is, because it comes out of Harvard, it has this very fancy name. It's the 3-circle model of the family business system. And I can draw it with my hand. It's a Venn diagram. It's 3 circles. There's the family circle. There's the business circle. And then the revolutionary thing that Harvard did is put this third one on there, which is ownership. And when anybody in your audience is thinking, oh, maybe my wife, my husband, my kid, they can come in just like you said, we'll pay them minimum wage, or we'll pay them nothing, or we'll pay them $60K a year to work 100 hours a week, right? And think about it nonstop, whatever. If you can get really clear about, we have a family relationship, and that is not the same as our in the business relationship. And then maybe we don't have an ownership relationship because I'm the owner and you're not. Or maybe we are also co-owners. This also is so helpful when people, when co-founders start a business, they have an ownership relationship that is different than their in the business relationship. And let's say co-founders are friends, not family, but they're probably really close friends. That family circle might be the friendship circle. And it's very different sets of priorities in each of those circles. For example, in the family circle, you're probably wanting harmony. You just want to get along. You want to have fun together. You want to support each other and love each other. Inside of the business, if you try to have harmony, you're going to ruin the business. Inside of the business, you need to say to your co-founder or your brother or your spouse, you're not doing a good job. You have to do better, right? You would probably not do that in the business circle or in the friendship circle. You must say it inside of the business circle, and you must be willing to have a collegial relationship. You must be employees or colleagues together in that circle. And then in ownership, it might be very different. Maybe one is the majority shareholder and one is minority. Well, one probably gets to make all the decisions, the other one doesn't, even though in the business you're trying to solve problems together and make decisions together.
Yeah, it seems like such a challenge if you choose to accept the challenge. Because is it worth it in the end? I don't know. And I'm sure there's millions of different cases. But when, those dynamics are very difficult, I imagine, to separate at family barbecues or, having those hard conversations with, say, you hire your niece or your nephew or someone, and then you have to fire them, say. And then what does that do for family dynamics? When you come into play, are you playing more therapist or are you playing more business consultant, coach? Like, what is typically the 80-20 when you step in?
Yeah, well, before you said the 80-20, I was going to say yes. I am the therapist and I'm the business coach.
All above.
Yes, all of those things. But actually, I will say this. In the United States, 66% of all businesses are family held. So it's worth it, right? People keep doing it. In other parts of the world, it's 80 or 90%.
Wow.
And it's the vast majority of companies. It's not 51%. It's way above that.
Okay.
And I would say, people will often say to me like, oh, you must really love drama or you're really like conflict. I actually don't see that much drama. I don't see that much conflict. And this is why I find that the family businesses that I work with anyway are the bravest people I know. They are willing to say those hard things. And they're willing to risk the hard, interaction at the family reunion. And this is why it's awkward at the family reunion before you tell the family member they're not doing their job well. It's awkward afterward too, but at least you've been honest. Everybody knows these dynamics are happening. It's when you actually say it that things get really great. So yes, I'm the therapist. Yes, I'm the business coach. Yes, I'm the one helping them figure out succession too, right? So the succession coach. And there's this one super cheesy and highly valuable tool. I actually encourage people, if they don't buy the hats, to pretend they're wearing a hat that would literally say boss and employee or mom or kid or majority owner, minority owner. It's such a silly little tool. But when my clients or other family businesses that I know use that tool when they start the conversation, like, hey, dad, I have a question for you about my job as your daughter. is different than, hey, owner of the business, I have a question about my job in the mailroom, right? So,
Yeah. That's really difficult for the person who has to change or wear many hats.
yes.
One of my coaches in the past, I remember when I called him for advice, he asked, he heard me speak and vent and ask, I have a problem. He said, Eric, before I answer you, do you want me to wear my friend hat? Do you want me to wear my coach hat?
Yeah.
Do you want to wear my business hat? Like, he mentioned half a dozen different hats. And I was like, oh, wow. And then he proceeded to speak in that lane.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that's an easy task for people. So do you find that people, even though they're aware of it, they still, emotion gets involved.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're the dad that needs to teach them a lesson, or, like, how does that play out in front of you?
One thing is, of course, by the time people are in the room with me, they're here because they've tried to do it without a third party. And so I actually see people on their best behavior, if you will, because there's another person in the room. But to more directly answer your question, it's so hard for people. And that's why I say they're the bravest people I know. They're having to be it may be in the same conversation. They might be dad, boss, and owner who have completely different priorities. Dad wants their kid to have a good job, right? Boss wants their kid to giddy up and do a better job. Owner wants the business to be profitable so they can help, pay for their grandkids' college, right? Those are totally different priorities.
Yeah.
So it's really, really, really hard. And I'm lucky enough to see when people are finding a way to navigate that with making mistakes, having self-awareness, usually a huge sense of humor about their own errors and their repeated mistakes. And here's the one thing I'll say, Hollywood likes to use family business as stories because they can be dramatic and eccentric and weird. They can pretend that the next generation makes more, tons and tons of money and doesn't earn it. But the fact is, and actually research supports this, most people working in a family business have a really good work ethic. They're really good employees. And most, like you said right away, are paid under market value. They're not making, they're not running an ice cream shop and making $2 million salaries.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm curious how you eventually landed here. Or you working in family business? Were you experiencing that in your life or job?
Yeah.
Take us there, and what inspired you to come into this space?
There were two motivations for me. One was, how can I not wear a swimsuit at work, but still do, teaching swimming lessons? And the other one is, my parents were hippies coming out of the 60s and 70s, and they instilled in me and my siblings that we had to make a big difference in the world. And so I was always chasing those two priorities. And when I realized that family businesses are the most common kind of business in the world, and also give extremely generously to their local communities, tend to be very involved in their local communities, nonprofits, local politics, they'll step in and be city councilors and things like that. I realized, and then of course, family businesses, because they're the most common kind of business, employ more people than anybody else. And so when I realized that, okay, if I help the owners and the leaders of family businesses run really great businesses, where everyone there is qualified and doing their job, where people are open and honest, where there's transparency about how we're getting where we're going in the business, that I could have a huge ripple effect beyond that, for all of their employees, families, their communities, and beyond.
Yeah. Were you able to see from the inside prior to, committing to this sort of endeavor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was raised in a version of a family business. My dad and my uncle ran an auto repair shop. And my mom and my aunt helped out there. So I saw a little bit from the inside. I didn't see a transition to a next generation, which can really complicate things. I saw that. And then I also spent time running a family business center out of a university. And so there I was educating, teaching, literally teaching classes, and then also creating events for family businesses. And, that's where I really got to get up close and personal with lots of different kinds of family businesses. And from there, stepped into working as an advisor.
Gotcha. So I imagine now, and it sounds like you may know all the statistics, which I'd love to hear. One of the statistics that I've memorized, and I don't know how accurate it is anymore, Sarah, but 10,000 baby boomers are retiring per, is it a day?
Something like that.
Something like that.
I keep
Something
hearing
insane.
different, really dramatic numbers, but they're big ones. They're always big ones.
Yeah, they're big ones. And I don't know what percentage of them own businesses, but are you finding that a lot of the, say, baby boomer generation who started businesses, let's say it's blue collar, whether it's a landscaping company or an HVAC company, don't know how to transition, don't know how to pass it along, and a lot of them just fold it.
Yeah.
And it's $100,000 or a $500,000 or $1 million business or more. Do you come across a lot of those instances?
So the ones I talk to are the ones who are trying to figure out how to do it, right? Those are the ones that I know personally. I get to read news about all the other ones, and it breaks my heart. And for two reasons. One is the person who maybe tries to do it and fails. That really breaks my heart, right? They say, I want to figure out how to do it. Or the ones who say, oh my gosh, I don't have a kid or I don't have a person in the business and there aren't other interested parties. I would think, oh my gosh, go buy a family business. Do it. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Go for it. It might be a little messy, but all businesses are messy. It's not exponentially more. Yeah. Oh, I would love to see more businesses get transitioned.
Yeah.
Especially the blue collar focused ones.
The awareness that you exist and people like you exist to help them transition the business or sell the business potentially, even if it's for the assets or more than the assets. That's what's sad when you see them just sell it for the assets. But yeah, I'm curious to know more about the succession. What is the typical scenario? Is it more likely a father passing it to a son, or is it all different types of situations? I wish I knew the most up to date data on that. I don't even know if there is the most up to date data on that. I see a lot of one owner to a second generation owner. One thing I will say though is I'm going to make up a timeline here. 80s, maybe 90s, even. It was very typically one parent to a second parent, but that is second child who might be a parent at the time, but one parent to one kid, because of it's kind of the, I call it the royal family method of, well, you just give it to the oldest son, whether he wants it or not, that kind of thing. That has been changing significantly. Probably started, I don't know when, maybe in the 80s, but it's become more and more and more common that the family business goes to multiple kids or just the one who's the most qualified and the most interested. And that makes me so happy because there's so many, if you look at the royal family methodology, there's so many oldest sons who don't want it, aren't interested, are bad at it. They end up becoming drug addicts or addicted to something else. They ruin the business. They ruin their marriages because anybody in a job that they're not into is going to suffer. And I'm so thrilled that trend has been changing and more rapidly changing over time. Okay. Do you think that the trend is changing because there's more awareness, there's more content? Like, what do you think, is more people talking about it? What would your guess be?
I don't know. I mean, it could be the women's movement, women's lib, feminism. Could be that. It could be the older son saying, I'm not doing it, right? I don't know. The fact is it's probably all of those things and more that are driving a different mindset around a next generation, what that looks like and what the expectations are.
Yeah. Oh man, I wish we could dive in more
Yeah.
on all these things because I'm so curious to find out, especially about EOS. Can you quickly, before we get into our next couple
Yeah.
questions, what EOS is for those out there who don't know, who own a business? I know I didn't find out about it until maybe a few years into
Oh,
owning a
cool.
business, and someone
Yeah.
said, "Hey, what operating system do you use for your business?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah. What's
So
that?
yeah, please
I
please
use
explain what that
Word
is.
and Excel and,
Yeah, yeah. It's
PowerPoint.
like,
I don't know. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. But yeah, what that is, and then how you integrate for that.
yeah. Cool. So EOS stands for the Entrepreneurial Operating System. It was the first, tool to be called an operating system. It's not software. It's a method of running your entrepreneurial business. It's not made for family businesses, although Gino Wickman, who's the founder of it, was working with his dad when he created it. So I like to pretend it was made for family businesses. I happened to come to EOS with my passion around family businesses, but really it was built for companies with 10 to 250 employees who want to grow, who are feeling some pain. Maybe they're having a hard time scaling, or profitability is flattened or sunk. And it's made for those leadership teams and owners who are willing to sit around a room, get coaching, learn new tools, learn new things, get asked really hard questions. And that's what I've gotten to do for the last 10 years. More than 80% of my clients have been multi-generational family businesses. All the others were, privately held companies that were, trying to chase a big dream. And many of them ended up bringing in the cousin, the spouse, et cetera. I also do work with owners, but that's not EOS. The EOS work I do is in that business circle, really helping them run a great business.
Gotcha. In the business, family, and ownership
Exactly.
Venn diagram. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
What I love about EOS is, for me personally, it holds me accountable.
Yeah.
And it sets that marker, those quarterly goals that I can, because to move that mountain, right, we got to take it piece by piece. So I love this. I love the program. I love the operating system methodology to accomplish big things over, in short periods and sprints. We call them.
It's amazing how it helps clear out the noise in your head and in your schedule. Okay, this is the most important stuff, not the fire that's burning here or here or here. Yeah.
Yes, I love it. It's good. It's great. If anyone doesn't know about EOS, definitely look it up. And if you need somebody to implement, not integrate, right? You're
yes,
implementer.
Got it right. Implementer. Yes. EOS implementer.
Yeah, I often mix those two up.
Many people do.
Yeah. So before we part, a couple more questions. I love this segment very much. It's called Embracing the F Word, meaning failure. Not the big F word.
F words, Erik.
Yeah, all the F words are very easy. They just roll off the tongue, don't they?
Yeah.
But yes, failure in that it could be in life or in business that taught you a lesson.
Yes. I worked with a family business. They were working with a different EOS implementer. That implementer brought me in to help them with their ownership. And when I first met them, I said, I don't think I can help you. They needed someone who actually had training in therapy, who wasn't just accidentally therapeutic. And they said, no, I think that you can help us. And a couple hours into our first day, I said, I don't think I can help you. I need to leave. And I did not leave. They asked me to stay, and it didn't work. And to me, the big failure was not holding my ground and saying, you can't pay me money because I can't help you. And it's a bummer. I feel like we wasted time, all of us, especially they wasted time. I can waste my time, but for them to waste their time. The other thing is I have a passion that burns in my soul around people coming in to help family businesses and saying they can help, but then not really helping. And then I did it and it drove me bananas. It still kind of drives me bananas. So there's attorneys out there who will try to help people get through conflicts. It's like, you're not trained in conflict. You're trained in the law. Help with what you can help with and send people to the people who can help them when you can't.
Yeah, I got it. So the lesson learned there was you didn't trust your instinct.
Yeah.
You didn't stand your ground. And then therefore everyone's time was wasted. How long was the contract for? We
were supposed to work, usually in ownership, I work with people between 4 and 6 quarters. And we worked together. Ultimately, they came to agree with me that I couldn't help them, but we were 3/4 in before it ended.
Okay. Yeah. Almost a year. Yeah.
That's too long.
Unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I mean, I think especially over time, in your business, you start to recognize the people that you help the best.
Yeah.
And the people that aren't a good fit.
Yeah.
And I guess, was that earlier on, in this career for you?
No, that's what makes it even more horrible. They made me admit that in person. This was like in the last year. I mean, this is horrifying. I would probably have a little more. I have forgiveness for myself, but it would be less of a bummer if it had been early on. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the thing is, especially if if in your heart you are a servant, you know that you're here to serve and help. You try to look beyond those things and say, I can still help you. I know that I'm qualified to help you. But yes, there are certain things that you are something I like to call spidey sense because I'm a geek. Your spidey sense is going off and you don't trust it at the time, but you knew all along. But then you're like, maybe there's, if everything works out, but anyway, I'm glad you have forgiveness for yourself. And and
any Spider-Man reference is a beautiful reference. So yes, geeks unite.
Well, I made a George Burns one before we recorded, and you got that one. So I'm glad
Did we
you got
grow up on the same block here, Eric?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. My wife references a movie with George Burns, not Oh God, but it was called 18 Again, where George Burns soul went into this 18-year-old kid, and the kid was basically doing a George Burns impression the entire time. A fantastic movie and impression. I highly recommend it for those who want to watch a nice old 80s movie with George Burns. And then I saw an interview. It's great. I saw an interview with Johnny Carson, and Johnny Carson said, you're 90 years old. I think he lived to 100. How do you do it? He says, I smoke 8 to 10 cigars a day. Crazy,
okay.
Right? And then he says, and Carson says, what does your doctor say about that? And he, in George Bird fashion, said, my doctor's dead. He outlived his doctor. How great is that? That's so funny.
Oh, I want to come back as George Burns in my next life.
Yeah,
That's so good.
He was the best. So, okay. Last but not least, in one word, how do you help people?
Separate.
Okay. You want to expand on it?
I help them separate their relationships, their family relationships, their ownership relationships, and their business relationships. Yeah.
The hats.
Yes.
The hats.
Yeah.
You bring in hats, boxes and boxes of hats.
Yes. Millions of hats, everywhere hats. Yes. Yeah.
It's good. It's good. Imagine if I said in one word, how do you help people? You said hats. I hand out hats.
What's your business then? Yeah.
Oh, it's so good though. I do love that visual. I've seen people posting stuff, like they change their hats, and it makes sense. Totally makes sense. But Sara, thank you so much. I know it was a short time, but it was a time well invested with you. Thank you. I've learned a ton. What's the best way that people can reach out to you?
I have a website. My name is a sentence, Sara B. Stern, which I think is hilarious. So sarabstern.com is the easiest way to find me, or on LinkedIn, same name. Yeah.
I just got it. It took a second, and I was like, oh, yeah. The
irony is I often will inside of my head, I'll make fun of people who put that middle initial, like, why do you think you're so important? But it's funny. So I had to do it. Yeah.
And there are probably a million Sara Sterns, so you have to differentiate yourself. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'm starting to use my middle initial more.
You are.
So yeah, it's a good move, definitely. But thanks, Sara. I'm looking forward to another conversation.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Eric.
If you were inspired or you learned something new today, please give us a like or a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. If you want to learn more about how to build your YouTube channel, your personal brand or podcast, hit us up at info@onairbrands.com. That's info@onairbrands.com so that we can find ways that we can help you. I'm Erik Cabral, and I hope that I added value in your life today.